All right, what an ending to that Jazz game. It absolutely had me losing my mind. Shout out to Will Hardy, who saved the Jazz season. Yes, the most important timeout possibly in the history of the Utah Jazz happened tonight. Because guess what? If Will Hardy doesn't make that timeout call, Utah probably drops from 2 to 5 in the lottery standings. And these losses and these wins can't be changed. This is a tougher race than I've seen in a while from the get-go at these rankings at the top, and you cannot make them up. So Utah getting a win against the Mavericks a week or two ago can't be made up, and Utah's paying for it. And then a win tonight would have been absolutely brutal for the Jazz. So let's talk about it a little bit. The talk of everyone on the internet, and they're cooking Will Hardy out there. They're cooking him, and maybe rightfully so. But the reality is that what happens on this last play with Collin Sexton at the end of the game, he drives to the basket. As soon as he backs up, Will Hardy called a timeout. But it is not his fault if NBA referees are slow to act. The NBA referees are slow in many ways, both mentally and in their ability to make the right call. So if they're supposed to give the Jazz 4 seconds, that's not Will Hardy's fault if the NBA referees don't make the timeout when the coach calls the timeout. It's on them. Anyways, Will Hardy felt bad about it. The comments after the game were absolutely that he went and talked to Collin Sexton and he felt bad, told him that he robbed him of a moment, which, you could argue that he did, and maybe he just lets Collin Sexton go. But I tell you what, Anthony Davis was under the rim. He's being guarded by Rui Hachimura, and he found a way to score. By the way, Collin Sexton has not been playing very well these last 3-4 games. And so I don't think tonight he has a pretty decent game from the field, 50%. So that's a good game tonight. 4 assists, but he also got benched at one point earlier in the game because he made some bad decisions. And so Will Hardy's making decisions based off of things that happened earlier in the game. And so one nice thing happens with Collin Sexton, but as we all know about Collin Sexton, it is chaos, and Will Hardy tried to control it. He got burnt, but actually, for the Utah Jazz, that was the best possible outcome because Utah gets saved from themselves and now sit at number 3 and are likely going to overtake New Orleans at some point for that number 2 spot. I have another thought. We have to talk about some of the fans out there of this Utah Jazz team. I go online, and maybe this is just my timeline, things I see, but I'm not going to lie. Some of the Jazz fandom on social media getting on my nerves. One of the prevailing viewpoints I see from people, and this comes from NBA writers too. I reskeeted something on Blue Sky tonight. Annoying. By the way, any NBA content out there, especially writing, that talks about rule changes needing to happen. I've heard from Bill Simmons multiple times saying they need to cap the amount of three-pointers at 40. No. What needs to happen is better officiating. They fixed the officiating post-trade deadline last year, and the game got immediately better. You don't need to cap three-point shots. You don't need to change the game. It's a dumb opinion. It's a dumb thing. Could you imagine if the NFL started saying things like we need to change the field because of what's going on? You would never see that. What the NBA needs to do is fix the officiating so they call less fouls and let the players play. And they need to promote all the NBA teams and stop focusing on single stars. Because guess what? Eventually those stars retire or eventually those stars rest. Let's fix this a tiny bit. There we go. That's actually better. What do you think? Is that better? Anyways, that's what the NBA needs to do. They need to be not changing games. I get so tired of it when I hear that type of stuff out there. It is incorrect. But back to the original point. I see Jazz fans online saying things like, I've never been more distant. Now I'm gonna obsess about this thing. Let's fix it. I hear Jazz fans online, and not all of them, but saying they're not interested, the least interested they've ever been. Guess what? I saw those people last year saying the same things. If that's your opinion, go watch Utah Hockey Club. Go watch someone else. You want to go watch Utah Hockey Club? They're 10-10. Amazing. Go watch a 500 hockey team. I don't care. What the Utah Jazz are doing is the smartest, most effective strategy they've done in their entire history as a team. And Jazz fans should be loving it. And by the way, I'm loving it. We're covering every minute of it. In fact, this tanking stuff has actually had me watching more basketball than I ever have. I'm out here watching Wizards games. I'm watching Spurs games. I'm watching Wolves games, rooting for them to lose. So anytime the Wolves play, I'm rooting for that other team. Like tomorrow, the Lakers play the Wolves. You can bet I'm putting on yellow Lakers gear, rooting for the Lakers to improve the Utah Jazz pick. But people that are saying, I even saw someone saying, because like there was some thing out there about the Jazz not being able to sign Mikal Bridges. Oh no! Oh no! We didn't get Mikal Bridges, who's shooting 30% from three. Oh no! By the way, Utah could have had Mikal Bridges if they wanted him. They just would have had to give up all the picks. Perhaps trading all the picks you have for Mikal Bridges, not a great idea. In fact, let's see what that's done for the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks are 12-8, and they have no cap. They have no assets. They are over, and they're 12-8. Congrats on that. I'm telling you right now, this is some of the best basketball I've ever seen. This Jazz season and this NBA season has been remarkable, incredible, phenomenal. And if you don't agree, I'm sorry, you're wrong. Go watch hockey. Go watch football. Go watch, a timeout every other play. Go watch 100 commercials. Go watch a game that only has about 5 minutes of actual game time compared to a basketball game where 100 things are going on. And tonight, everyone and their dog is talking about the Utah Jazz and the Will Hardy timeout. Was it tanking? Was it not tanking? Was it a mistake? Was it the stupidest thing? I tell you what, right now, guys, if the Utah Jazz win the lottery, and it's because this timeout kept them at this spot, and the Utah Jazz get like the number 2. By the way, who was sitting at number 2 when they got Victor Wembanyama? The San Antonio Spurs. If this is the thing that gets us Cooper Flagg or Ace Bailey or Dylan Harper, it will go down as the greatest timeout in the history of the Utah Jazz. The most wonderful, beautiful timeout that could have ever been called. In the history of the Utah Jazz, we've always been screwed by the refs. But this time, in some weird irony, the refs screwing the Jazz actually helps them in an immense way. Not like in the finals when they couldn't see that there was a full second on the shot and they took a shot away from the Jazz. Or not calling the push-off, or whatever you want to blame on the referees. This time, the referees screwing the Jazz helped them in a weird, insane irony. Unbelievable. And if you weren't watching, you're missing out. Every single one. So while these plebs on the internet, these plebeian fans on the internet, I just don't know why. I can't understand. I find no joy in anything in life. You're missing out. You're missing out because it's going incredible for Utah. By the way, on top of the Jazz just absolutely getting themselves in great position for a top 5 pick, they're absolutely getting another good pick from who? The Minnesota Timberwolves, who sit at 12. And right now, I'm actually losing my mind because I would love to be watching this Sacramento Kings, San Antonio Spurs game, but I cannot, for I am doing a live NBA YouTube channel. Oh, no! See, look at that. Spurs win by 2. Spurs win by 2. And you can absolutely bet that affects the tanking standings for Utah. In fact, look at this. That absolutely puts them even higher on Minnesota. This is so helpful for Utah. They'll get more lottery balls with Minnesota in the lottery. Who's not enjoying this? Who are you? Do you like sports? Do you like the Jazz? Just once I would love the online Jazz community to not embarrass me. Stop embarrassing me. You're embarrassing me online. Every single one of you. Stop it. Stop it. Not all of you. Not all of you. But there are some of you that are embarrassing yourselves on the internet. Embarrassing. Stop it. Stop embarrassing yourselves because you're embarrassing me. Everyone can read your skeets and your tweets and all your stuff. Stop it. And by the way, everyone who's missing out on the tank, guess what? Those same people that last year said, "Oh, I can't get myself to watch this Jazz team. I just can't do it. What are the Utes and Cougs up to right now? Let me go check on them. Oh, you tell me the Utes suck this year too? Well, guess what? Utah gets an absolute superstar player, a player that would, in the equivalent of college football, never ever go to the Utes or the Cougs on a football field. Absolutely would not. But guess what? In Utah, that can actually happen, and that's what's happening right now. Could you imagine if Utah gets another MVP? I have not had an MVP on my team since I was watching the Utah Jazz in the late 90s. That's how long it's been. All of these fans have not felt that nectar. They have not tasted that juice. They have not soaked in what it means to have an MVP on your team. You do not know. When you say those things, it is very clear you do not appreciate what that means. Do you think that the Dallas Mavericks regret even the slightest bit their season that got them Luka Doncic? Do you think? Nope. Not even a little bit. Do you think the Pistons right now, who are turning things around, who got the number 1 pick in Cade Cunningham and a top 4 pick in Jaden Ivey, are regretting, a top 5 pick actually, are regretting that they're now winning and going to the playoffs? They do not. They do not. Do you think the San Antonio Spurs regret even the slightest bit that they have Victor Wembanyama beating the Sacramento Kings on his own tonight? They do not. They do not regret it one single bit. And every single one of those fans who are saying these things, and those are incorrect and wrong opinions, they are wrong. You are not correct. There is no room for that debate. It is incorrect. Every single one of them will get on that same computer or iPhone or Android or whatever it is, and they will say, "I love this team. I was here the whole time. Can you believe what we went through together? Can you believe that?" No. Not allowed. You do not get to say these things and then come back and pretend like you were there the whole time. No, you do not. No, you do not. Not allowed. Not allowed. Although if you want to subscribe to the channel and like the video, I would appreciate it. All right, should we get into this game? What a remarkable game. The Lakers had a few players resting. Bronny James did not play. Did not affect anything. We were doing a lot of Max Christie watching tonight. It was a rough watch. LeBron James got close to, he had just a remarkable game, 27-14. I looked it up during the game because he had like 10 assists in the first half. Or it was 9 or something like that. And then he started throwing dimes in the second. And I think that LeBron's career high, I looked it up during the game. All of those that were watching on the playback with me, it was fun, by the way. Come watch with me. It's fun. But LeBron, his career high is 19 assists. I was kind of quietly rooting for LeBron to have a career night. And he went in and he took over and he won the game. Except for that last 3. That last 3 from LeBron was just... Why LeBron? And plus, I think AD was open down low. LeBron takes a 3. It then goes to Collin Sexton. We all know what happened there. We've already talked about it. But that's one of the hard things with LeBron these days is sometimes he'll settle for those 3s. And man, oh man. The thing that made LeBron so great was, and you can just see that he's lost a little bit of a step. He's still great, still amazing. Tonight, hard to argue, 27-14. But when it gets down to that absolute crunch time late in game, I don't know if he just doesn't quite have the legs at the end of some of these games, but he just, once upon a time, would just drive and was unstoppable. And he doesn't drive quite as much. He'll just settle for a 3. Although in his defense, last year, LeBron James shot 41% from 3. This year, shooting 38%. Although tonight, that number might have dropped. He was not hitting them quite as much. Anthony Davis was awesome tonight, 33 and 11. But there, Dalton Connect, who was hitting shots like crazy last time they played the Jazz, could not connect on a three-pointer very much. Only 1 for 5. Utah survives. Armel Traore, that's who the Jazz were depending on tonight. I tell you what, I don't know. Has Maxwell Lewis been playing? I don't think so. I kind of liked him in the draft, but maybe he isn't anything. I don't know. All right, let's talk about the Jazz. We've talked about the Will Hardy timeout. Fine with it. It might become the most important Utah Jazz timeout in the history of the team. If Utah wins the lottery, we will look back at this moment as a seminal moment for the Utah Jazz. Lauri Markkanen was amazing tonight. He plays 37 minutes. They were trying to keep him from getting the ball, playing prevent, but he had 22 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. He was hitting shots at a high clip, including his long-range twos. Great night from Markkanen. We already know that he's really just such an effective offensive player. And if Utah wins the lottery this season, guys, and they can put a superstar next to Markkanen, and you have the development we're seeing from Keontae George, all of a sudden this team gets so interesting so fast. They're going to have to be careful next year because, all signs are pointing to Utah doing this again for A.J. DeBonsa. By the way, someone on one of my, it's just a thing out there, but there's some people out there that believe that they'll be pretty shocked if A.J. DeBonsa doesn't go to BYU next year. Just to put that out there. And I don't think anyone that's going to put A.J. DeBonsa at BYU probably isn't interested in having A.J. DeBonsa go into the Utah Jazz. Who's connected to both those clubs? Who might have the money to get the NIL money to get him to BYU and then be willing to pay him the money when he comes to the Jazz? Just a thought. Anyways, things are going well for the Jazz in ways that I never dreamed the Jazz would be this effective in what they're doing. They just got to stay the course. Stay the course. Now, I got to do another video. I did a video before about Brandon Ingram, spurring the Utah Jazz because he didn't want to be traded there. Fine. It goes back to that same thing. Oh no, Brandon Ingram doesn't want to re-sign with the Utah Jazz. Ah, shucks. Well, go enjoy, who knows, Detroit, I guess Brooklyn, maybe they'll go get fine. I ain't going to lose sleep over that either. If you're losing sleep over Brandon Ingram not signing with the Utah Jazz, I don't know. Maybe think about who you want on the Jazz and your priorities in terms of players. By the way, it also is a reminder that the most important way to accumulate players and talent is through the draft, which is what the Jazz are doing. And how many players, by the way, those people that say that stuff, sorry, I just got to talk about this because it's so stupid. It's so dumb. It is so incredibly inane. And it is such a lowbrow, uninquisitive, very lacking in intellectual curiosity argument. But none of them talk about the players who wanted to stay here, the Jazz traded. I mean, literally Donovan Mitchell re-signed here for Supermax. If Utah wanted, he'd be on the Jazz. And I can tell you right now that Danny Ainge is not the type that cares too much if someone behind the scenes is asking for a trade. Right? So, I don't know. Can we just cool our jets? CJ Miles even visited tonight. Everyone who comes here enjoys it. Yes, is there a stigma with Utah? Sure. But I don't see a lot of people lining up to go to Minnesota. Right? I don't see a lot of free agents lining up for Milwaukee. Maybe. Is LeBron going to Milwaukee? Was Milwaukee in LeBron's plans? Is that something I missed? I don't know. Drew Holiday went to Milwaukee and he re-signed there. I don't know. Some of this stuff is always a little here's the other thing too, is people need to learn when things are coming from agents and when things are coming from players. Can people just, I don't know, man. I'm not going to lose sleep over not getting Brandon Ingram. I was rooting for it. Now, it hurt my feelings. Brandon Ingram, but I'm not losing sleep over it, okay? Like I said in the video, you think you're better than me? But seriously, can we get out of here with this fatalistic talk? I'm so tired of it. And Jazz could lose the lottery, and it's still absolutely 100% the right move. And we do it again and again and again. Because guess what? All these teams, especially the teams that these fans try to talk to you about as failing, are already doing better. By the way, everyone in the comments, and I don't have time to go search them out, but believe me, I see them. But everyone in the comments that said, oh, what about Detroit? What about Detroit? How could you say such things about Detroit? Well, guess what? Cade Cunningham's looking like an all-star. Jaden Ivey is looking like the most improved player. And all of a sudden, they're going to the playoffs. Certainly looks like it worked out for Detroit. None of them like to talk about Houston, who also dropped in the lottery. They do have a defensive, all-first-team defensive player, Amen Thompson, who they got after losing the lottery. No one seems to mention that. No one. All those people don't come back and tell you, oh, you know what, though? You actually were right. Amen Thompson is amazing. And even though the Rockets didn't win the lottery and get Victor Wembanyama, I'm not going to come back and just, let you know that you were right, because Amen Thompson looks like an absolute demon beast on defense for the Houston Rockets, who, by the way, are 14-6 and beat the Oklahoma City Thunder tonight. No one mentions that. Not a single one. Not a single one. Where are you? Where are they? They ain't here. Not in this comment section. They ain't even watching this video. They're all watching college basketball. They're watching someone plant a flag in the middle of a field and arguing about that. They ain't watching the Houston Rockets. They ain't watching the Detroit Pistons. I can assure you that. And they certainly aren't watching the Utah Jazz. Now, they'll pretend they did when Utah gets their star. They'll pretend they did, but they certainly aren't right now. So ignore them. They are not worth listening to. Cut them out. I certainly am cutting them out because it is a joke. It is ridiculous. It is not to be paid attention to. All right, let's get back to the show. John Collins is playing so incredibly well. I got to write something for SLC Dunk. I've got to do a video on it. But Mark Stein talked about him being tradable. Collin Sexton, I can't remember all the names. But holy smokes, has John Collins turned himself into a super nice player. Unbenchable. So good that Will Hardy is playing these two together. They're playing well together. Things have changed in Utah. Will Hardy, incredible coach, by the way. That's the funny thing about that timeout is everyone's cooking Will Hardy online. He's doing incredible this year. Incredible. The players are developing. High-level offense being played. Utah just needs to get some superstars. What happens when Utah gets a superstar and Will Hardy can get that player into his system? What happens when Cooper Flagg's on the Utah Jazz? Things are going to be different. 21 points, 9 rebounds, 3 assists for John Collins. He's playing incredible. If you're not watching, you're missing out. He's just awesome. And then Walker Kessler, in his audition for the Lakers, 13 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 blocks. He was perfect from the field. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. What is going on with this team? The development is amazing. And Walker Kessler is just showing his mettle and what he is all about. Fantastic stuff. Collin Sexton, he made some bad decisions. He got benched in like the first quarter, just honestly 3 or 4 games in a row now, where he's just kind of driving. Honestly, the play that Will Hardy called timeout on, he's been doing this for 3-4 games. And the reason Will Hardy is called timeout is because it's gone incredibly bad so many times the last 3-4 games. And the one time it works, that's how things go in this world, right? But he has been doing that where he drives into the big retreats, doesn't pass out, does not get the shot within the flow of the offense, and it usually turns into a bad turnover or bad shot. And this time it didn't. But he was doing that in the first half, and Will Hardy benched him. So 15 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds. Sexton is still playing incredibly well, incredibly efficient offense, and I think he's absolutely a trade target for a lot of teams. Now, it just depends on if another team wants Collin Sexton or if they want to give the Jazz what they're probably asking, but it's at least 1 or 2 first-round picks is my guess. Keontae George, He's been having a bunch of turnovers lately. We talked about it during the playback that his turnovers are not as much as you'd think. They're just more noticeable. Now, there's some types of turnovers where they're just getting, in fact, let's watch them. They're here. But some of them are just turnovers that he can fix where it's just the ball being stolen from him. But this right here is a regular, that's, I don't know. That right there is probably a bad pass, but I'd argue that Walker Kessler got fouled, and that should have been an assist. Connect steal. So let's watch this one. Connect steal from Keontae George. Let's watch it. Oh, see, that's something that's a bad turnover. That can be fixed, though. These are not like, both of those are not, I mean, that's something that he can work on. Now, if he does that all the time, not good. George out of bound, lost ball turnover. By the way, this is unfair to George that that's a bad turnover, but that's like something he can work on. Honestly, two of those are just things that he can work on and improve. It's his first year as a point guard, right? All right, I think we're back. Let's go back. So Davis steal. Okay, here we are. Blows by his man, goes into the lane. That just needs to be a better pass, but that's a good idea. He's creating a corner three. Hachimura steal. This is Key driving the lane, gets it taken. Okay, so, these are a lot of turnovers that can just be worked on. He is a young player learning the point guard position. He's learning what he can and can't do. He's being given even more of the reins. So, yes, does the turnovers need to get better? Yes, it does. But we looked at it during the game because people were talking about it. He's number 17 in the league in turnovers. There's a long list of players that are much worse. And so anyways, is it something he needs to work on? Yes, but that's what this season is for. We're developing our youth. He does go 50% from the field. The three ball wasn't falling tonight, but he does have 4 assists, 4 rebounds, and I'm happy with what he's doing. He was a +2 in a Jazz loss. Bryce Sensabaugh, this continues to be the most interesting unit for Utah. This is really where the story of the Jazz season is and what's going on with this team. Sensabaugh is hitting threes at a high rate, although tonight he's only 33%, so it might be a little bit of a mirage. But -16, it makes me want to watch these guys. And I don't know if it's related to him being on the floor with Drew Eubanks, who continues to play pretty poorly. And Isaiah Collier is actually becoming a little bit of an issue here. But he can't shoot. And he didn't shoot at all tonight in 12 minutes. So becoming a bit of an issue. Collier, by the way, had that one turnover where he lost the ball out of bounds. And he only played 12 minutes tonight. Or what is it? Yeah, 12. Drew Eubanks, these 10 minutes are helping the Jazz immensely. And we got to give some credit to Johnny Juzang, who's playing pretty well. I don't know. This is where Utah's losing these games. And I know the Jazz are trying to get a top 5 pick. They are going to successfully do it if they stay the course. But this is where it's happening. And if Utah is able to trade either John Collins or Collin Sexton or Jordan Clarkson, who's not playing right now, but I'm guessing that Collin Sexton at some point is going to get moved, then the Jazz will successfully get a top 5 pick. And then you've got a guy that you can absolutely put in the starting lineup for Utah. Any of these guys. I mean, can you imagine getting any of these guys and putting them in the lineup with Lauri Markkanen, Keontae George, all of these guys? Absolutely phenomenal what Utah's going to be, especially these top 3. Utah has to absolutely get in this top 4 because then you upgrade at that position. You upgrade defensively, especially. If you get Cooper Flagg, it's just franchise-altering stuff, and that's what Utah's trying to do. Absolutely. And then the fact that Utah is getting this 12 pick, I'm telling you what, I'm loving Derek Queen. Go watch some highlights of Derek Queen from Maryland. He's 6'10". He's kind of like a Jokic kind of player where he's from the center, but he passes the ball really well, has really nice touch, shoots it a little bit. He's really fun. And I think he would be really fun for the Jazz to draft and then see what he kind of can turn into. Anyways, we've talked about all the players. Utah just needs to stay the course. Stay the course, Utah. Stay the course. Keep it going. Do what you're doing. This is what you need to do. You're doing great. Keep it up. The season is moving along really quickly. And if they keep their eyes on the prize, don't falter at any moment, things will go well. But if they screw this up, it'll be really frustrating. Let's see. So Utah now in these tank standings is sitting at 3. They just need New Orleans to win some of these games. They need Zion Williamson to play. Jordan Hawkins, Brandon Ingram, who scorned Utah, needs to actually play the game, Brandon. By the way, Brandon Ingram leading the New Orleans Pelicans to 4-17. Shout out to Brandon Ingram and what he's doing. 4-17 for them, lost 8 in a row. Utah needs them to start losing some games. And then Utah also needs teams to stop resting their players. Even the Lakers rested some of their players tonight, but luckily LeBron did play, or Utah would have won this game. So very nice stuff. A nice win for Toronto, by the way. So Utah is getting some space, and then Philadelphia is looking better. So we kind of figured this, but Utah is really locking themselves into a top 3 pick here if they can just stay the course. Now get to that 2 spot, and I'll be especially happy, especially for tank positioning. Utah just needs that number 2. If they get jumped and they keep a top 4 or 5 pick, that's fine. That's fine. Obviously, you want that number 1, 2, or 3, but if you get 4 or 5 in this draft, that is fine. That is good. All right. Okay, let's look and see what happens if the lottery was today. Utah is doing a great job of keeping positioning. Let's hope if there can be some sort of miracle that the Wizards win some games. I don't see it happening, but maybe. But Utah's losing the games they should. A win tonight would have been catastrophic. So we all should be very grateful for that Will Hardy timeout. Absolutely. All right, if the lottery was today, what would happen? Utah drops 3 spots and gets the top 6 pick, but guess what? That gives them Trey Johnson breaking KD records at Texas. That's the worst case scenario. That's fine. That is fine. Now, disappointing, yes, but it's also fine because then you get Trey Johnson and I guess a top 12 pick. Fantastic outcome for the Utah Jazz. Now, that better not happen. I'm going to be pissed. Oh, every time that happens, it pisses me off. Last night, we were number 1. Tonight, we're number 6, but I'll take number 6. And that right there is a good reminder that why Utah needs to get to number 2, because if they drop 3 spots, that gives them VJ Edgecombe, if they want him. They might be fine with Trey Johnson, to be honest. He would be so nice next to Key. Absolutely. All right. Let's give a shout out to our All-Stars tonight. Let's give a shout out to Ryan Edward Perry, the legend, Baby Elliot Madsen, see ya Alexa later, Christian House Money to Haas, the Outlaw Jesse James Nelson, Jordan the Goat Besterol, Austin R. Grant, Editor Extraordinaire, KG10 to TH5, the OG, and on the playback, Patrick Kubo, the Connoisseur. Guys, that was a lot of fun. Thank you, Will Hardy, for calling that timeout. Absolutely needed that to happen. I will talk to you on Tuesday, and I think I'm going to try to get something out tomorrow, too. Talk to you next